Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. I want to thank everybody who has been very active over the last couple of weeks supporting 21st Century Wire. We've had a flood after the winter fundraising drive. We've had a flood of donations, also people subscribing to 21wire.tv. There's some new members content up this weekend. If you haven't looked yet, go to 21wire.tv. If you have a membership, you'll be able to watch it. A very special video, which I recorded near the top of 5,000 plus foot mountain in the Superstition Range. It was a tough climb. Anyway, had a really good discussion up there on geopolitics. And if you're a member, if you subscribe to 21wire.tv, you'll be able to see that right now. So go ahead, you guys. And if you want to get involved, if you want to join the family, as it were, just go to our website, hit the donate button there at the top. Donate now, support us, and you can subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. That's one way you can support us. To the task at hand, the theme of today's show is, well, it kind of writes itself, doesn't it? And I know a lot of you are not surprised at where we are. By way of deception, thou shalt wage war. That is the motto of Mossad, as we've said previously on a number of interviews recently. And I've been saying this for like the last month, and I see other people are kind of catching on to this talking point, which is that the United States has adopted Israeli tactics in rhetoric, in negotiation tactics, and in warfare. And it's a brutal, kind of violent, unforgiving, medieval sort of style of waging war, deception, mounting fake negotiations in order to create cover for a sneak attack. That's basically the Israeli playbook. Donald Trump has more or less adopted chapter and verse every single aspect of this, and also the sort of disregard for human life, engaging in targeting densely populated areas, mass civilian casualties, not apologizing about it, thumbing your nose at human rights, all of these sort of things, treating Arabs as they're sort of subhuman. The United States is now engaged in this more openly. It's not that they haven't been before, of course, but the U.S. used to wrap it in a veneer of respect for international institutions, international law. They tried really hard, almost to obsessively, to appear to be working within the framework of international law. And even under Bush and Cheney during the neocon era, they still managed to try to put a facade on it. Now, under the Trump administration, they've adopted Israeli tactics. Israeli tactics are, no, we're just going to go full scorched earth. We're going to kill who we want. We'll steal what we want. And don't apologize, double down, deny everything, lie, and invert reality. That's the Israeli playbook. And the United States, under Donald Trump, has adopted it. So it's hard to tell the difference between these two countries now in their words and in their deeds. And that's where we're at. So by way of deception, so this is really the latest deception here, which we're going to explain to you, that everything you've seen over the last week is just typical. And I know many of you are already hip to this already, but this whole, ceasefires, negotiations, it's a joke. It's not serious. And I said initially when the ceasefire was announced that I said on a number of interviews, I said it's more likely that the U.S. is buying time. Israel's buying time here. They're colluding behind the scenes, pretending to be, these two will pretend to be separate entities. Donald Trump, when this ceasefire is announced, Israel's going to stop bombing Lebanon. Enough. He put out some stupid tweet. And of course, what does Israel do? They just continue blowing stuff up. But because Trump said Israel stopped, then, people who follow Trump and believe Fox, they'll say, look, Trump restrained Israel. Trump stopped Netanyahu from slaughtering more Christians in the Holy Land, in Lebanon, and killing Muslims in Lebanon, bombing neighborhoods in Beirut indiscriminately. Look, Donald Trump, he's got control over Netanyahu. No. Trump stopped nothing. That was all theater. That was to make the public believe that these are two separate actors, when in reality, what you're dealing with here is a two-headed beast. A two-headed beast. And that's the reality of the situation with these two rogue actors, these two rogue states. So the whole ceasefire thing, the negotiations, it's deception. It's deception. They needed time to reload. They needed time to rearm and to collect and sort of prepare for another round of violence. And this one is shaping up to be quite severe. We'll see. We'll see. But if we look at how this is progressing, we'll just take a further look here. Well, this is when you see stories like this, Trump says Iran talks will resume, threatens power plants and bridges if no deal. So what he's saying there, and this is the sort of most preposterous, this is the Washington Post here, just this morning actually, but this is the most preposterous part about it, is that first of all, it's hard to keep up with the flip-flops and the lies, and that's intentional. Trump's created a kind of media chaos environment that he is sort of the maestro of, and he's constantly changing his mind, constantly moving the goalposts. You can't negotiate with the United States. You can't. They moved in Islamabad last week. They moved the goalpost multiple times. They issued, it's not negotiations. They just look at your proposal and say, we don't like that. You need to do this, this, and this. If you don't, we're leaving and we're going to kill you. And we're going to take out your leadership and destroy your infrastructure. That's negotiations with the U.S. I mean, it's easier to negotiate with Hitler, quite frankly. So, and the lying is so rapid with Trump that it's impossible to keep up. And you've got these propagandists like on Fox that are this is another level. This is another level of sort of Goebbels-esque inversion of reality. Remember with these people, okay, with the Israelis and with the Trump administration, with the United States, in its current iteration. We hope it's not going to last forever. If it lasts much longer, there will be no more United States, probably, for all intents and purposes. But every accusation that they hurl at their target is actually a confession. So their habit, their function is to accuse others of the thing that they themselves are doing, and they do it constantly. And Fox and U.S. media basically facilitate this because they also repeat this script. So I'm pretty sure this is being churned out by, the Israeli lobby or the PR company that works for them, and they distribute talking points to politicians and media anchors in the United States, because it's pretty much verbatim across the board. They've all got their talking points. It's not journalism at all. So it makes diplomacy impossible, first of all the flip-flopping, the changing, the, reneging on your previous commitments. And it's amazing how they sort of engineered this one here. And the United States is saying that, Iran needs to, agree to this. It's a very simple deal. All they need to do is sign. It's a good thing to show they're willing to engage in a good faith agreement. I mean, the U.S. is telling Iran about a good faith agreement. The same United States that twice, just with Iran, I'm not talking about all the other negotiations with Hezbollah, Hamas, Soleimani, and Russia, Ukraine. Put that off to the side. But just twice already in the last 12 months, they've deceived Iran, pretending to be conducting high-level negotiations, and used that to attack them and to kill their head of state. And they did it to Venezuela as well. They were negotiating with Venezuela, and then they came in and kidnapped Maduro and stole all their oil. So it's good faith. I mean, seriously, give us a break at this point. So it's going to be war. Here's Mohammed Morandi here. And U.S. military is preparing to board ships linked to Iran in the coming days. So the U.S. is going to flood the area with naval assets. They're going to try to board boats who they believe are, quote, linked to Iran. This is going to be a complete mess. Okay, and Morandi here from Tehran, Dr. Mohammed Morandi, saying Iran can seize or destroy all ships in the Persian Gulf and permanently close the Straits of Hormuz until the Trump regime comes to its senses. That might be never, in fact. Meanwhile, the global economic depression is approaching. That's true. That's true. So what Trump did is a classic straw man. He accused the Iranians of breaking the ceasefire. This is an Israeli tactic as well. The United States never had an agreement because the United States never fulfilled their end of the agreement. The United States, while the straits are closed, the United States have moved their naval assets to the southern, to block ports, access to Iranian ports in the southern coast of Iran. This is outside of the straits. Okay. And they were supposed to stop doing that. That's an act of war, to blockade a country, like what the U.S. is doing in Cuba, what they did in Venezuela. That's illegal, massively illegal under international law. It's an act of war. And so the Iranians said, well, you know, we've opened the straits. How come you're still blocking our ports? And Trump said, well, we'll unblock your ports when we feel that you've fulfilled your end of the deal. Well, they already did. But Trump didn't want to lose his leverage. So he moved the goalposts. So he lied. And this is just normal. And then he blamed the Iranians for breaking the ceasefire when they just switched it back and said, right, no more shipping through the straits. You're going to block our ports, they say to the U.S. And Iran says, fine, we're going to close the straits again. And when they close the straits, everyone pretends like Iran reneged on a deal. I mean, it's so dishonest and so deceptive. But that's what you're dealing with. You know, you're dealing with the United States of Israel at this point. And here is geopolitical scholar Robert Pape here. The U.S. is preparing a major escalation, engaging U.S. troops directly with ships with Iran's oil for the first time. We are at a fork in the road. Either the U.S. backs down and Iran emerges as the fourth center of world power in the near term, or escalation to prevent that from happening. Trump is heading to escalation. So we're heading to war. So I was right when the ceasefire was announced that this was just a ruse, and these people are not serious. I'm talking about the Trump administration. They're not serious about peace or, you know, coming to some kind of a settlement or anything like that. So here's Trump himself. I mean, basically admitting, you know, that, you know, he's going to attack. Basically, here is the president of the United States.
By Wednesday, when the ceasefire ends, will you extend the ceasefire, or will you start attacks again?
Maybe I won't extend it.
Okay.
But the blockade is going to remain. But maybe I won't extend it. So you have a blockade, and unfortunately, we'll have to start dropping bombs again. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. I think it's going to happen.
So he just admitted what I just told you, is that the blockade remains. So that the U.S. was never serious about any deal. So what you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is this is the Israeli negotiation tactic, which is to insist on certain terms and doing things that are automatically going to be deal breakers for the other side, for the counterparty. And then when the other side says, look, this is unworkable, we can't negotiate like this, then you turn around and blame them for rejecting a, quote, perfectly good deal. This is an Israeli tried and true tactic, which is always to sabotage any negotiations. And they reserve the right to do this right up to the last minute of any even long-running negotiations. You know, this is exactly what Trump is doing. So he's learned from, you know, his masters in Tel Aviv and the Roy Cohns of the world, the people who trained Trump, criminals, you know, mob lawyers, and other people like that. He's learned. And so now you've got a U.S. president that acts, talks, and handles himself like a mafia member of the mafia. because that's what Israel is basically the hub of a global international organized crime syndicate. That's effectively what the state of Israel is. It's masquerading as a country. It has no constitution. It has no declared borders. So why does it have no constitution? So it doesn't have to respect the rights of any of the native inhabitants, obviously. Why does it have no declared borders? Because it reserves the right to constantly expand those borders. I mean, just on those 2 points alone. So it's a gangster. It's sort of a rogue gangster state, not really a real state in the sense that it doesn't have those two things which other countries have. So it's an entity, which is why its enemies call it the Zionist entity, and they don't name it Israel. If you notice, the Iranians call it the entity, the Zionist entity. Some Iranians will name it as Israel. But so there's Trump. He's doing exactly that. So he just admitted it. There's going to be no deal. He has no intention of doing any deal or anything like that. So we look at the statements here, and this is the latest sort of incoherent rant posted by the U.S. president. And the other thing is, this isn't even an official channel of U.S. government. So he's running the president of the United States. Just understand. I'll read this in a second. The president of the United States is running U.S. policy. We're supposed to be a superpower. That's what everybody says. U.S. is a superpower. So if we're a superpower, how come we can't issue statements from official channels of government? You've got the president who owns a website. That had a sort of dodgy, I don't know if it was an IPO or something, Truth Social, whatever the Trump media thing was. It was a complete scam. Anyway, he tried to make a competitor to Twitter, sort of flopped. And it's just become his own personal soapbox and other sycophants on that website. But he uses this to run foreign policy. So everything's got this narrow pipeline controlled by the president, that all communications, so nothing's going through the State Department, or very little. The only thing they do in the State Department, or I think the U.S. Treasury is probably more of a State Department of all they're doing is sanctioning everybody. Targeting sanctions against everybody. That's what Scott Bessent is. The Treasury has become a subsidiary of the War Department in the U.S. It has been for a long time, but anyway. So here's with one of these ridiculous communiques here, and he's saying Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in the Straits of Hormuz. Of course, no context. A total violation of our ceasefire agreement! ! So this is exactly what I said before. He's accusing them of violating it when the U.S. is the one that actually violated it. Okay. They didn't fulfill the deal, and Israel has blew up Lebanese infrastructure and then said that they weren't violating the ceasefire because they placed explosives and they weren't firing artillery rounds or dropping bombs. Therefore, it wasn't a violation, according to Israel. So if they wire a whole village and take down all of the buildings and homes in that village, the Israelis, then it's not a violation of the ceasefire, according to Israel. You're dealing with fundamentally dishonest and evil people here. And that's who Trump is in bed with, and that's who he takes his marching orders for. He continues here, or whoever wrote this. Many of them are aimed at a French ship and a freighter from the United Kingdom. So he's trying to drag France and the UK into here, probably not successfully. But he got other countries to basically push boats into the straits in order to increase the chance of an international incident. You see what the U.S. is doing here. They want to pull Europeans in because they want to expand this. They want to create a war situation for Europeans in the Persian Gulf. They need to diffuse the focus away from the United States and Israel and add Europeans in there. And Europeans can say, our ships have been hit. This is an outrage. We need freedom of navigation, yada, yada, yada. Okay. It's a ploy. Okay. They will be there tomorrow evening, he says here. My representatives are going to Islamabad in Pakistan tomorrow evening. What's that, Monday? For negotiations. So who are these? representatives. Who are they? Is he talking about these guys? These guys? That's your representatives? These guys. These two clowns. That's who's going to, so that's your these guys are representing the United States in negotiations. That the tall, skinny one, Rodney, that's Rodney and Del Boy. Okay. Rodney is the president's son-in-law. Okay. Has no experience in doing anything diplomatic wise other than flacking for Israeli settlements under the fake Abraham Accords. And then using that to claw money off the Arab states for his investment fund. Okay, that's Rodney, otherwise known as Jared Kushner, the son of a Jewish American Israeli or American Israeli Jewish American gangster who is a convicted felon. Okay, that's Jared Kushner, right? And of course, probably pardoned by Trump, I would imagine. Yeah, his dad was probably pardoned by Trump. It's a little bit of a perk if you marry into the family. So anyway, married to the mob. And then behind him is Del Boy, the Del Boy of diplomacy. That's Steve Witkoff. I coined that term last year, the Del Boy of diplomacy, Steve Witkoff. So who is he? He's just Donald Trump's golfing buddy, but he's not just Donald Trump's golfing buddy. Steve Witkoff is a shady property developer from Long Island who's dialed right into the Zionist mafia and the Israel lobby. And he was installed, both of those people were installed into their positions at the orders of the Israeli lobby. That's what $600 million buys you. Okay? In campaign contributions to the for Republican campaigns, but for the Trump administration, $250 million in campaign contributions. That's what it buys you. They get to choose who the negotiators are. Can you imagine this? And this is why the Russia-Ukraine negotiations were flopped, because of these two clowns. Because Del Boy and Rodney, they're not sent there to make sure that a deal gets done. Del Boy and Rodney are deployed. There you go, independent diplomats. Trotters, New York, Tel Aviv, Islamabad. Del Boy and Rodney are sent to make sure that no deal happens, that you get war at the end of that. That's why they send these two clowns. These two clowns don't even write anything down. They decide what to relay back to the president. They keep Trump in the dark. It's very convenient how this is done. And of course, the Iranians know these two are scam artists. They still have to sort of go through the motions. And again, no disrespect to Only Fools and Horses, and Del Boy and Rodney are lovable characters in that British comedy. And yeah, I hold them very dear to my heart. And David Jason was a wonderful comedian. But I'm using this as a type of a metaphor, if you will, satirical metaphor, just to show you what a bunch of two charlatans, basically, two savants, scam artists, especially Witkoff, is like next level. He's a next level con man. How he was able to wiggle his way in to these important positions. And all of these, everything that these two participated in has been a disaster. So at some point, well, with Trump, they're there to fail. That's why they're sent. Netanyahu is very happy that these two are doing what they're doing. Let's just be clear on that. Okay, these are two effectively Israeli assets that are embedded in the White House and running point on U.S. Middle East policy. Where is little Marco? Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, nowhere to be seen. He's kept well away from this. He's the chief diplomat, allegedly. He's supposedly Secretary of State. Marco Rubio is owned and operated by Israel. Full stop. But they don't send him because then he would be obligated under his professional capacity as someone who is actually confirmed by the Senate, unlike these two scam artists on screen here, unlike these two con men, Okay. Rubio was actually confirmed by the Senate. So he's accountable to the American people. That's why he's not sent. Do you see how this works? The Trump administration is a criminal outfit. And I'm not saying that in a TDS manner or whatever. The comments will say, Patrick's got Trump derangement syndrome. No, Donald Trump is the one who's deranged. Let's be clear. I think it's beyond debate at this point. So anyway, he's going to send his representative. So let's just take a look at the rest of this screed here. So again, he's already setting up the failure of these fake negotiations. He's saying, Iran recently announced that they are closing the strait, which is strange because our blockade has already closed it. So Donald Trump admits in this tweet that he violated the ceasefire. Okay. So they're helping us without knowing, and they're the ones that lose with the closed passage, $500 million a day. The United States loses nothing. In fact, many ships are headed straight right now to the USA, Texas, Louisiana, Alaska to load up on oil. Compliments of the IRGC, always wanting to be the tough guy. We are offering a very fair and reasonable deal. So on one hand, Trump is saying, hey, this has nothing to do with us. We don't need the oil. We don't care. Everyone's coming to us anyway. But then he's also at the same time wanting to control the Straits of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf and threatening Iran with annihilation. So he's really working on behalf of Israel. That's pretty clear. Otherwise, it might make sense if that wasn't the case, but that is the case. That's why none of this makes sense. In writing, it makes no sense, but we understand what's going on behind here. So we're offering a very fair and reasonable deal. He's not offering a fair and reasonable deal. That's why the deal is designed to fail. That's what this guy does. Okay. And I hope that they take it, because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. So what happened to all this concern for the Iranian people and democracy? Oh, and Trump claims that they're killing their civilians or killing 45,000. I'll have to find that clip. And they said they'll come down fast, the bridges, he's saying. They'll come down easy. And if they don't take the deal, it will be an honor to do what has to be done. So he's saying it's going to be an honor to destroy Iranian infrastructure and society and kill Iranian civilians. An honor. This is a U.S. president. This guy needs to be yanked out of office yesterday. This is a menace to the world. I'm not even going to get into his attacks on the Pope this week. It's just unbelievable. It'll be an honor. Wow. And he's saying, what should have been done by other presidents. So other presidents should have done what Trump is doing, which is start an undeclared war of aggression and threaten civilizational annihilation of a country that never attacked the United States. Iran never did anything to the U.S. Despite all the lies they load up about, I could debunk them one by one. And so meanwhile, there's the president, So he's going to send Del Boy and Rodney. That's great news. Thanks, Donald. And so here's the Israeli president telling us, well, everything we need to know, quite frankly. Listen closely.
Israel is stronger than ever. This is the bottom line of this campaign up until now. Let me say, there are still additional objectives for us to achieve, and we will achieve them either by agreement or by resumption of the fighting. We are ready to resume the fighting at any moment. Our finger is on the trigger. As you know, 2-week ceasefire has been announced between the U.S. and Iran. No, we were not surprised in the last moment, and I want to emphasize, this is not the end of the war. This is a step in order to achieve all the objectives.
Did you hear that? This is not the end of the war. This is just a step to achieve all of our objectives. So that's the boss. The boss just laid it out. Listen to the boss. Okay. That is Trump's boss. That's who Trump answers to. He said the war will continue, and these are just a series of steps to achieve our objectives. So the negotiations, folks, listen, fake. Sending these to Netanyahu just told you right there, right from the horse's mouth. Listen to him. He's in a sick, kind of deranged and perverted way. Netanyahu is the only honest one, because he's telling you exactly what he's going to do. So when you see these guys show up, when you see these two clowns lurking around negotiations or in the Middle East or anywhere, it's a surefire guarantee that there's going to be war, okay, or that the war will continue, because these guys are there on behalf of the war machine, okay? These two con artists, these two Israeli assets, these are, if not directly, at the very minimum, they're glorified Israeli agents for Israeli intelligence, glorified Israeli agents at the minimum. At the worst, and I think quite probably, they are Israeli intelligence assets. They're not registered as foreign agents. They're embedded in our White House in America. So think about that. The level of foreign control over the United States government, no one's ever seen this before. And the results are very clear for everybody to see. Look at what is happening. Look at how deeply we're falling deeper into the malaise of this war. So and these guys are just basically a symptom of it. I mean, you could say it's nepotism, but it's much worse than nepotism. It's not just Trump nepotism. It's Israeli control of the White House. That's what these two clowns are doing, and they're doing side hustles and deals while they're doing all this. So they're lining their pockets while all this is going on. They're trying to basically siphon as much money out of the Middle East from these Gulf states. Some of them are stupid enough to dump money in these people's real estate deals or private equity funds or whatever scam they're running. Who knows? So just to reiterate my previous point, here's Trump. Listen to this guy when he's asked a specific question by the press, and we'll see what the answer to that question is. But it's just becoming obvious.
No, I don't. I have to do what's right. The Pope has to understand that. Very simple.
So the Pope has to understand, says Donald Trump. I'm just doing what's right, according to him. This guy's unbelievable. So what does the Pope have to understand? Let's listen.
I have nothing against the Pope. His brother's MAGA all the way. I like his brother, Louis. I'm not fighting with him.
So when someone as dishonest as this guy says, I have nothing against the Pope, translate that into he has everything against the Pope. He hates the Pope. Donald Trump is not a religious person. He's not. People like Trump only pretend to be religious in order to get votes, which he did with the evangelicals and the Christians. I love the Bible. He'd sit up there like it was embarrassing. He said, it's my favorite book. I love reading it. I love the Bible. It's a great book. It's a wonderful book. It's my favorite book. He's never read the Bible. Donald Trump is either an atheist or worse. You can be sure of that. Mark Levine said he's the first. Mark Levine, who is Israel's sort of mouthpiece at Fox News, said Donald Trump is America's first Jewish president. Now, has Trump converted to Chabad, Lubavitch, Rabbi Schneerson cult? We don't know. I don't know the details of that. It's possible, but we don't know for sure. But he is not Christian. I can tell you that right now. That should be abundantly clear at this point. Let's listen to what he's saying.
The Pope made a statement. He says Iran can have a nuclear weapon.
That's a lie. So Trump is saying the Pope made a statement that Iran should have a nuclear weapon. So he's lying about the Pope. And the Pope never said that. It's a ridiculous statement. Why would the Pope ever say that? Seriously. So that's the level of dishonesty you're dealing with here. That this guy will do that in front of the world, in front of the media, to the world's most prominent religious leader, and impugn him, project on him a completely fabricated claim about something he never said. And it's something he would never say in this universe. And just the chutzpah of Trump to do that with a straight face. And he wants to be treated as credible. Every second word out of this guy's mouth is a lie. And this is a provable fact. I mean, you could sit here, you need a whole channel to unpack his lies. But he's not done here. This is a short clip. He's gonna squeeze a few more in for us here. Listen.
Say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the Pope looked at the 42,000 people that were killed over the last 2 or 3 months as a protester with no weapons, no nothing, I mean, you take a look at that.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. You mean the protesters that you just admitted? Trump just admitted 2 weeks ago that he sent weapons to the protesters. So everything that we said 3 months ago was correct. Trump, because he was bragging, he wanted to boast, and sometimes he's got a big mouth, and he can't keep it down. So he admitted that the U.S. was trafficking weapons to so-called peaceful protesters in Iran, which they're using to shoot police and innocent bystanders and to cause chaos. Everything we said. Okay. And then he turns around now after admitting that publicly, saying that, the Pope needs to look at the 42,000. So it's now 42,000 protesters that allegedly the quote regime slaughtered. There's no evidence that the Iranian government killed 42,000 or not even 30,000, not even 10,000, not even 5,000, not even 3,000. The number of total casualties from the U.S. and Israeli-backed unrest, U.S. and Israeli and probably British intelligence involved in covert actions to create violence, as they've done in Ukraine at Maidan, as they've done in Syria during the Arab Spring, as they've done in Libya. Standard procedure. The official number is 3,117, if I'm not mistaken. And that includes hundreds of police, dead police, burned alive. I've seen the evidence with my own eyes when I was in Iran investigating this very story. Many hundreds of innocent bystanders killed. And also many of these violent agent provocateurs also lost their life. This was unrest, instability that was directed and fomented from outside of Iran. It was meant to be a color revolution, and it failed. It was meant to be a color revolution to destabilize the country, and then the airstrikes would come, shock and awe. Trump even said during these so-called violent, what he called peaceful protests, which were violent, provocateuring, he said, rise up and take over your institutions. He said that publicly. So they had a plan, and it failed. So what you're seeing now is a result of that failure. And this guy is still harping on with the lie. Where does this number come from? 40,000. These are all U.S.-based fake Iranian NGOs, funded by the U.S. State Department, funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, CIA, openly CIA cutouts, based in New York, Iran Institute of Human Rights, and there's like half a dozen of these. And Iranian International News, which is an international news site that is an Israeli intelligence clearinghouse for propaganda against Iran, and they're using that as a source. The whole thing, the whole ecosystem is fake. So the provenance of this claim of all these protesters being slaughtered in Iran is fake. It's as fake as WMDs in Iraq. Period. They lied to us before. They lied to us constantly to go to war. They've done it again. This is the U.S. and Israel. Let me remind you, this is the Trump administration and Netanyahu joining forces to lie to the American people, to lie to the world, to create a fraudulent pretext, some moral argument to justify this vicious and illegal criminal war that they're currently waging. Let him finish.
So I can disagree with the Pope. I have a right to disagree.
So he's even using the lie to attack the Pope. That's how shameless this decrepit old figure truly is. It's pretty unbelievable, this guy. So I don't want to get into the Pope thing. I mean, the funny thing about the Pope, Donald Trump's attack on the Pope, and you saw Sean Hannity and some of these his shameless surrogates come around. Hannity claims to be a Catholic. He said, I went to Catholic school and and I'm no longer a Catholic because of the way the Pope has mistreated my president, Donald Trump. So I don't think Hannity is very religious. Again, these people use their religion, they use the veneer of their faith for political reasons and to get credibility, and then they use it to protect themselves if they're being attacked. These people are shameless. So J.D. Vance, the vice president, he then did the stupidest thing imaginable. He got behind the president and attacked the Pope as well. And J.D. Vance is, J.D. Vance is the white Obama. Okay. He is a complete fabricated political construct that has no depth, believes in nothing, has no principles at all. He is the white Obama. He's 41 years old. He has no experience. He is literally a tool of big tech, of Peter Thiel, of the Zionists. The Israeli lobby own him. And they're backing him as well as a few others. They won't back one horse. They'll back them all. But J.D. Vance is one of the horses they're backing for 2028. And Vance converts to Catholicism during the campaign. It's exactly the same thing Tony Blair did. And he did that to kind of create this, aura, if you will, around him as being a religious, pious person with these deeply held beliefs. These people don't. If you had any deeply held beliefs, you wouldn't, as J.D. Vance did. That's not his real name, by the way. That's another one. But as J.D. Vance did, he accuses the Pope, the American Pope, Pope Leo. He accuses him of not understanding theology. This is a 41-year-old tech bro who has no experience in politics, who is Peter Thiel's protege. That's his main qualification. He is Peter Thiel's protege. He certainly doesn't have any of the attributes or qualifications to be president of the United States. Being vice president with no experience, that's not a qualification. So anyway, he attacks the Pope. And lo and behold, J.D. Vance's book is out. His book about converting to Catholicism, his faith journey. His book just comes out this week. I don't know how that book tour is going to go. Probably going to be a little bit rough. But the backlash has been severe with these people. So where does that leave us with war? Well, it's going to be sad to say, but they're taking the country back. They're taking the world back to war. Here is Pete Hegseth. Basically, they're preparing for war. Listen.
Message to Iran's military leadership, to the KH leadership and IRGC leadership. We're watching you. Our capabilities are not the same, our military and yours. Remember, this is not a fair fight. And we know what military assets you are moving and where you are moving them to. While you are digging out, which is exactly what you're doing, digging out of bombed out and devastated facilities, we are only getting stronger.
So this guy, he's a former Fox News weekend host, again, not qualified to run the Pentagon, clearly, who uses more hair gel in a week than Gavin Newsom does in a year. And that's saying something. So this guy, how he graduated from Princeton, it's not clear. How did Donald Trump graduate from Wharton Business School? Did he pay somebody to write his dissertation thesis for him? Many of these people do that sort of thing. These are the types of people that hire ghostwriters to write their books because they're too busy to write the book. Okay, these types of people. So this is a psychopath. This is what you're dealing with. And a lot of people have made accusations like that he's probably coked up half the time, like Zelensky. Look, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I'm sure it'll come out. But clearly unhinged, unstable, is in way out of his depth, and is completely psychotic.
You are digging out your remaining launchers and missiles with no ability to replace them. You have no defense industry, no ability to replenish your offensive or defensive capabilities. You only have what you have. You know that, and we know that. You can move things around, but you can't actually rebuild. We'll start with a message.
Big tough guy Pete Hegseth said, "This is not a fair fight. We're going to destroy you, and we're just waiting for the opportune moment to do that." That's what this sociopath is saying. I don't want to get into his record, but it's pretty horrific. His personal resume is a giant train wreck, basically. So how did he get this job? He was installed in that job by the Israeli lobby, and they made sure that every U.S. senator voted for him during the confirmation, when everybody knew that he was the worst candidate, probably the most unqualified major cabinet position in the history of the United States of America. A very important position, Department of Defense, which he proceeded when he got in to change it to the Department of War. So the U.S. will no longer defend itself. It's going to be waging war against other countries. And that's his legacy, basically. This guy, I call him Flathead. He just looks kind of funny looking guy. Unhinged. Anyway, we're stuck with these maniacs. So it's going to be, it's pretty clear that we're looking at war. It's as we feared. And just to round out the discussion on that, we'll bring back up on screen. Look, we'll show you the final notes on this. Not till Trump's not done. By the way, he did something else this week. He threw Joe Kent under the bus. Joe Kent is a whistleblower who resigned as counterterrorism chief under the Trump administration because he felt that Israel was dragging us into another war in the Middle East, and he wasn't going to have it. And so he resigned out of principle. So like the first person in Washington to have any actual balls to do anything for principle, probably the first high-level resignation in the U.S. government since the Vietnam War over 50 years ago. Joe Kent. So what does Donald Trump do? And Joe Kent was very loyal to Trump. Even after he resigned, he didn't say anything bad about Donald Trump, Joe Kent. He was very respectful, complimenting him, saying he's a good deal maker, all these other things. He wasn't, Joe Kent did not trash Donald Trump when he left. He said he just couldn't support this war, this illegal war, and on behalf of Israel. And so here's Trump. This is how he treats his supporters. Who's dumber, Tucker Carlson or Joe Kent? Says the president of the United States on his stupid website platform. And again, it's called Truth Social. And I have yet to see anything that's actually truthful on this website. the name Truth Social. He's got people saying the president put out a truth. Donald Trump renamed the tweet to a truth. So it's not a tweet, it's not a post, it's called a truth. So these people are so shameless that they will co-opt a word like the truth and use it as the front of house for a platform that all they do is lie. That all he does on that platform is lie. And he's running U.S. foreign policy on this thing, which should be an impeachable offense on its own. Him using his, quote, Truth Social, lie social, as a platform to run U.S. policy, that's an impeachable offense. This guy needs to be yanked out of office by hook or crook yesterday. It's beyond a joke. It's dangerous for America and for the world. But anyway, he's trashing his former ally, his former cabinet appointee. And look at this. Look at what he says. He says that it's very interesting. I met Joe Kent at Dover Air Force Base, along with numerous others who had lost their loved ones in the war. I said hello to all the families. Kent horribly lost his wife. Her casket was being brought to Dover along with the rest. Although he married again quite quickly, in my opinion. What's that mean? He married quite quickly, too quickly. Is that any of Trump's business? He has to like get these digs in. He did the same with Thomas Massie. This guy is nasty. He's shameless. He's just vicious. Just a vicious operator. Her casket was being brought to Dover. Okay, Joe Kent married too quickly, remarried too quickly. Anyway, in any event, says Trump, a number of years later, I noticed the same person running for Congress in Washington State. He lost, and then he ran again and lost. So Donald Trump's inferring that Joe Kent is a loser because he didn't win his congressional in a hardcore Democrat state of the state of Washington. It's not easy for Republicans to win anything in Washington, quite frankly. Maybe out in Spokane or whatever might be easier possible to be Republican rep there, but it's a blue state. So he's saying, well, I didn't know him, whatever. I felt sorry for him. I thought I'd give him a job in the White House. That's what Trump said. So he's really insulting the guy here, saying, oh, I felt bad. I only gave you this cabinet position out of pity. I mean, he's really trying to stick the knife in here. And he's saying, they did so. While I rarely saw him, I certainly didn't expect his disloyalty. But that's what I got. So Trump saying that Joe Kent is disloyal because he resigned. So what Donald Trump is saying here, this malignant narcissist, is saying that if you have principles and you're loyal to those principles, then, and you have to choose, but you can't choose between your principles and being loyal to me, the dear leader. Okay. Trump is a Maoist. Okay. He's not conservative. He is an authoritarian. He's like Pol Pot. Okay. There's nothing conservative about this guy. Zero conservative about Trump. His whole political story is a lie. His whole positioning of his facade is a lie. It's so self-contradictory. So you can't have principles or conservative principles. What Joe Kent did here was resign about another sort of illegal war overseas. That's a very conservative, traditionally a very conservative position. A non-interventionist, more along actual conservative values about American sovereignty coming first. And Joe Kent said, no, this is Israeli sovereignty coming first. I can't take this. I'm resigning. So Donald Trump attacks him because Donald Trump is Pol Pot. And he then calls him a sleazebag, a leaker. He accuses him of being a leaker. There's no evidence that Joe Kent leaked anything. And I don't know if that was true or not. So he's throwing the accusation out there and saying, but I don't know if it's true or not. Just what a cowardice little sort of attack by Trump. He's a bully and actually a coward, the president. Because he throws out these sort of half-assed accusations and then rows them back in the same sentence. That's just a sniveling, coward, basically. Kent is a loser, says Trump, just like Tucker, Candace, Megyn Kelly, the rest of the losers. They're born that way, low IQ. They're not a damn thing they're going to be able to do, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, this guy's unbelievable. I mean, he's really trying to stick the knife, and he signs his name to it. I don't know who wrote that. Could be Laura Loomer, could be Mark Levine. Like, who's running his stupid account? This guy. And you know what? And also, look, I had a lot of the MAGA bots, which is all that's left for MAGA, is there's bots on X. And some of them had a go at me saying, you're being disrespectful to the president of the United States. You can't call him stupid. Patrick, you shouldn't call him an idiot. He's the president. He's your president. You need to show respect for the office. You know what my response to that is? This is a president that himself has no respect for his own office. If he did even have a little bit of respect for the office of the presidency, he wouldn't behave and carry on the way that he has been doing. Donald Trump has destroyed the reputation of his office, nationally and internationally. That's beyond debate at this point. So if he's destroyed the reputation of the presidency and the office, it means nothing at the moment because of him, because of the way that he's conducted himself. Why should anybody else show respect to this person who calls himself the president of the United States? Why should anybody respect him? If he doesn't respect Americans, if he doesn't respect himself or the office of the presidency, what are we supposed to do? Say, yes, Mr. President, thank you for making a mockery of the office of presidency. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We respect you. Even though you're a complete psychopath, we respect you. Even though you're insulting the Pope and attacking Catholics and Christians, and you're supporting two genocides, one in Gaza and the other in South Lebanon, and you're threatening civilizational annihilation against a country that never attacked the United States to justify a war that you yourself started. But we need to respect you. Okay, this anybody who's saying this, you need to go to that sort of de-radicalization program where they get people out of cults, because you are in a cult. You're in what's left of MAGA, what the hollowed out shell that is MAGA. MAGA at this point is basically a bunch of bots on X and just a load of AI slop. That's MAGA. That's what's left. It's completely hollowed out. So anybody that's still in that habitat, you need to get you need to go for counseling. You need to get de-radicalized out of the cult. Like when families go and rescue their kids from the whatever cult. You're in need of major interventions at this point. So there's, it's sad. I knew this was going to happen. I knew he was going to attack Joe Kent. He's got such a galactic size ego, this guy, that he can't take anybody breaking rank. So he's surrounded by just sycophants. And you can't run a government like that. It's not a serious government. It's not a serious country. This is not a serious president. He's just turned into just an incoherent train wreck, a shyster at this point, who's in self-destruct mode constantly. So anyway, let me just point this out, folks. And Russian security chief issues warning to 4 NATO states. So Finland and the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia have allowed the Ukraine to use their airspace to launch drone attacks, destroying Russian refineries and ports, oil refineries, gas refineries, and export terminals. Okay, this is a final warning from Russia. This is war. So Europe and the UK and the US can't keep playing this charade, turning Europe into the rear front of Ukraine and using it to plow weapons and money into Ukraine and get it to attack Russia and to prevent it from being able to export oil and gas. That's war. Imagine if someone did that to the U.S., what would happen? The U.S. would not wait. They would attack. Obviously, Russia has to weigh things carefully. But the Europeans, the Americans, this is what they're doing behind the scenes. And they think you're going to get away with it. They're going to drag us into World War III. These are these politicians, Mark Rutte, Kalia Kallas, all these other people, the crazy UK defense minister. These people have got war fever. I don't know where it came from. But this is real. That's what's actually happening. So, we'll talk about that. It is about energy. The United States is trying to game the global energy. That's why the U.S. is happy the Straits of Hormuz are actually closed, because they're at the same time Trump's bragging about sending tankers going to the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America, as he's renamed it. Nutcase. So this is why they stole Venezuela's oil and kidnapped their president. This is why they started this war in Iran. This is why they don't want the Ukraine-Russia war to end. Okay? And here, just so you know, those three red arrows, that's the United States and its allies intervening to gum up global oil and gas, period. And of course, the United States is then going to supply the world, or as much as they possibly can, to become the dominant oil and gas producer and distributor on the planet, and use that as leverage to further bully and manipulate markets and people and countries and governments, along with the tariffs and everything else. That's exactly what you're seeing right now. That's exactly what's happening right now. So, and again, if you want receipts, there it is. U.S. production, export volumes soaring. That's the industry, American Oil and Gas Reporter. That's the industry press. Projecting growth into 2030. So a lot of people say, America first, America first. Problem with America first is if it means that everyone else is last, then you're going to have some big problems. And these old boomers who are making these problems are saddling the next generation with the retribution and the revenge that's coming against America and future generations. They're consigning them to suffer for the sins of these boomers who, quite frankly, aren't going to be around very long, but they're ruining the show on their way out. So anyway, take a look at that. I mean, it's right there in black and white. That's the U.S. grand strategy. We'll get into more of that again. A shout out to Richard Medhurst, British journalist, who did a very nice short documentary film, mini doc, if you will, which is on his social media on this very issue. This is the big play. In the Nord Stream pipeline, the sabotage, the U.S.-led NATO sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline was part of this. It's a step-by-step process. So Trump is just the guy they needed, the gangster they needed to kind of, fast track this agenda. Basically, look, let's take a break right now, and we'll go to Overdrive and invite our colleagues, as well as look at your comments. All of that is coming up very soon. So in the meantime, big shout out to our the Real Anthem Band. This track, I love this track. Big shout out to Real Anthem Band. Their link is in the description. Support this artist. This is a great band. We know this band, and they've been very kind to supply their incredible new tracks to this show, and we're just blown away by that. So enjoy that. We'll see you in just a few moments. I'm Patrick Henningsen. This is the Sunday Wire, episode 591. Stay with us.